Leukocytes are the anatomical name for the white blood cells. The leukocytes have various immune functions within the body. On average, there are approximately 10,000 leukocytes per microliter of blood. Recall that in the same microliter of blood, there are approximately 5 million erythrocytes. So the erythrocytes far outnumber the leukocytes in this case. Certain numbers of leukocytes will increase in number depending on the specific infection or pathogen that the immune system is responding to. Unlike the erythrocytes, many of the leukocytes have the ability to move across the walls of the blood vessel or capillary in order to fight infections in the tissues. This ability to move out of the bloodstream and into the tissue space is called diapedesis. There are two broad categories of leukocytes: the granulocyte leukocytes, which consist of the neutrophils, the eosinophils, and the basophils, and the agranulocyte leukocytes, which consist of the monocytes and the lymphocytes. We will begin with the granulocyte leukocytes, the first of which is the neutrophil, the most common of the leukocytes. They typically fight acute bacterial infections using an antibacterial enzyme called lysozyme. The enzyme punctures the cell membrane of the bacteria, causing the bacteria to die. Neutrophils are also responsible for creating inflammation at sites of burns, as burns create a breakdown in the skin's protective barrier, which allows bacteria to get into the deeper tissues. The eosinophils function in killing parasitic worms that enter the body through the skin, the lungs, or the digestive system. Because these are common entry points for those kinds of parasites to enter the body, eosinophils tend to be located within these areas. They also produce antihistamines in response to allergens, which reduces the swelling and the blood vessel dilation that comes with allergic responses. Basophils function in releasing histamines, which promote inflammation during allergic responses and cause blood vessels to become more permeable, making it easier for other leukocytes to leave the blood through diapedesis and fight infections. It also causes local swelling because when blood vessels become more permeable, it also causes fluid to more easily escape from the blood vessels. The basophils also release heparin, which is an anticoagulant that prevents blood from clotting during inflammatory responses. Next, we will examine the agranulocyte leukocytes, the first of which is the monocyte, which functions in fighting chronic infections such as tuberculosis, which is a chronic bacterial infection of the lungs, certain blood cancers like leukemias, chronic viral or chronic fungal infections. Moving on to the lymphocytes, we see that there are several types of lymphocytes: the NK cells, the B cells, and the T cells. The NK cells function to kill cells that they do not recognize, so that is, cells with a different glycocalyx on their plasma membrane that does not resemble the glycocalyx on the surface of our own cells. This includes killing tumor and cancer cells, as these cells often undergo changes in their glycocalyx, in addition to some virus-infected cells. The NK cells are involved in what is called general immunity because their role is to destroy cells that the immune system deems as foreign or not belonging to our body. B cells and T cells fight very specific infections and are involved in what is called specific immunity or adaptive immunity. B cells function to produce antibodies against specific bacteria or viruses that we are exposed to or that infect us. Those antibodies will then bind to those specific bacteria or viruses, and T cells will attack and kill those antibody-tagged bacteria or viruses. Both B cells and T cells will increase in number and will increase their response after exposure to specific pathogens. If that individual is infected with the same bacteria or the same virus later on, the B cells and the T cells will mount very rapid responses to those subsequent infections. And both of the B cells and T cells can live for years after the initial infection occurs, which allows our body to respond quickly if additional infections take place in the future.